Hey guys, episode 20, Zero's Geckos. My name is Harry. Thank you for hanging out, for listening, and seeing a little bit of what goes on for me as I'm growing and learning in the hobby and also learning a lot business wise, trying to figure that piece out. Um, on the Gecko Pod, which I do with AJ, we talk about the hobby and business of breeding geckos. And I think a lot of times we don't talk about business as much when it comes to interviewing people. We just talk about the hobby and the geckos and the nuances of those things, but not very often do we talk about business. And maybe that's probably the right thing overall. We don't always have to talk about business because I do think that the majority of the people in this hobby is they're just hobbyists and with a little bit of a side hustle. But nonetheless, I think it's important to talk about business because at the end of the day, we're still making these cool animals, not just to make them. We move them, right? We sell them, and it's not wrong to make money. I've said this in many vlogs and podcasts before. We shouldn't feel guilty that we're selling our animals. Um, I see it more as like we're making cool animals and we're allowing other people to enjoy them, and they are willing to buy them from us. So it's not like we are just cranking these things out to kind of line our pockets with a ton of money, right? We want to make the best things, we want to provide the best animals, and we want to do it in a way that elevates the hobby in general, elevates the stock of animals that we have. So I think we have come a long way since the early days. I wasn't there, obviously. I've only been here for 4 years or so. But, just kind of hearing from other breeders and other old school people talking about some of those earlier days up to what we have now, it's crazy, right? It's almost night and day in terms of how far we've come with the projects that we have, the quality of the animals, the different morphs and the different traits. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, I'm decided to do an episode, this vlog episode, because this week we don't have a podcast. AJ just came back from Tinley over the weekend, and I asked if he wanted to do a Q&A session, a live Q&A session this week, and he he wanted to take a little bit more time to rest and catch up on all the work that piled up. So AJ and I will have a podcast, a live Q&A podcast, likely next week, probably Thursday. So in the meantime, I'm here. I want to talk about some, just catch up with you guys on the vlog stuff. So I'm just gonna do a few chores as we chat and talk about business, and Gecko's business community, right? Those things. That's kind of my tagline. But there's this cricket over here. You guys hear it? That's annoying. So today is of this recording. It is Thursday today. Yesterday I fed crickets. I get again. I told you guys last time. I get my crickets from Timberline. I ship them in on overnight Monday to Tuesday, so I get them on Tuesday, and then I gut load them. I feed them, this high calcium Fluker's diet. I give them carrots, a bunch of carrots, so they're all well fed. And so by the next day, I fed them off. So yesterday, Wednesday night, I fed the entire collection in here as well as upstairs in the breeder room. And so today, I just need to do a few things. I don't have to feed today. Tomorrow, Friday, I feed diet. So I've been trying different varieties of diets. So here's my Vital. I've sold most of the Vital off, but I sold all the fruits. But the last time I fed cricket. I fed like 20% cricket mixed with Rapashi, the Rapashi classic fruit up there. So I'm trying different mixes. This one feeds pretty well on its own. So Vital Insect. And, I was like, oh, maybe I should get some more in. But the downside to having these be provided by Korea is that they just have to keep shipping, and there's always a back order. You just always have to pre-order. They always run out. It's a good thing for them. It sucks for us that wants to keep selling them or wants to keep buying the people that want to buy it. They just have to wait. So they just have a little bit of a bottleneck when it comes to shipping things over from Korea. So that's Vital Meal. So far, I feel like it's been pretty positive. it feels like, it sounds like from the community in general. And for myself personally, I feel like it's fine. Feeding response wise, it's good. But like we said in the diet, it's not just the diet episode of the Gecko Pod with AJ. It's not just about the feeding response, right? It's about how nutritious it is, how what are they actually intaking? Is there a lot of like filler stuff, extraneous ingredients? So eventually we'll talk about that. I think AJ wanted to gather a bit more information as he's kind of doing more research, and he's going to fill us in on some of his findings, and so that the hard part for us is that a lot of times the lay people, we just don't know. We're not food scientists, we're not nutritionists, most of us aren't, and we're not like reptile specialist and food specialist. So when we look at the food, we just go off of one factor. We're like, oh, it eats well, it cleared bowls, they love it, right? And I'm coming to learn more and more from AJ and just kind of from the community that's not all there is. There's more than that. So my hope, at least, in seeing these podcasts about diets and whatnot, as we kind of talk and deep dive into it, is that I want the layperson, I want myself to be able to look at the back of a label and be like, oh, this is filler. Oh, why do we need this? Why do we need XYZ to counteract this one or this or this or this? What is it that makes it more not so watery, right? Do we have things that kind of give it some of that, you know how like in normal cooking we add more cornstarch to thicken things, right? Are there things in here that thickens it? Why is that the best source of thickener that we need? Is it organic, or how is it going to affect our animals? And maybe this is diving too much into the details. Some people don't care very much. They're like, oh, if it eats it, it eats it. I've seen my animals grow very well on it, and I think that's good. But I do think it is kind of a good general trait or skill to have, to be able to look at the back of the ingredients and be like, oh, I see. The first three is okay: black soldier fly, dried cricket. What is this insect meal? Oh, it's a mix of BSF. It's a mix of cricket. It's a mix of whatever else, right? And then what is this? All the sugar here, like, oh, okay, bee pollen. Okay, molasses. Okay, things like that. So to be able to kind of look down the ingredient list and to break it down and be like, okay, this actually might be pretty good for my gecko. Whereas some of these diets, nobody's free of this. Like Rapashi has like a zillion ingredients in theirs, and sometimes you just don't know what's what. So it can be confusing. So anyway, I think at least my personal goal to kind of talking about diet is so that we can all be well versed in what's going on in our food. Can we look at this person's food and this person's food and this person's food, and then be like, okay, this is a good food. Now let me feed it to my animals. How's a feeding response? Oh, a little bit off. Okay, let me mix in some stuff into it. Add a banana into it. Maybe a little touch of honey to not like over sweeten it, but to give it a little bit of a better response. So yeah, I when people say that, oh, I'm this one, Rapashi doesn't feed well, or Vital doesn't feed well, or Pangea, this doesn't feed well, then sometimes we gotta look into why that is. Is it just feeding response we're looking at, or is it more than that? Can we overcome feeding response even though something is more, quote unquote, healthy? And I don't know all the answers to that, and I think that's why I'm so interested in talking about it and kind of having people to be more aware of those things. So I'm excited for the food stuff. Let's do this. I'm going to. There's always cleaning I have to do, but I'm gonna fill the water bowls. I'm gonna prepare the animals so that tomorrow when I feed, I can just quickly use a squirt bottle and fill everything up. So I'm just. Oh, also maybe I'll just split up some animals first. I'll do that. So I'm just gonna work while we talk. So something I do, and then we'll talk about business, but something that I do is when the animals, eggs are laid, I put them in the incubator, and then, they hatch clutch mates. When they hatch, I put the clutch mates into the deli cups. I put them into like a deli cup like this, right? I put them into a deli cup like this. I'll put a paper towel in there. I put like some fake plants in there so that it can help with its shed, and then I leave it in there for a day or two, and then I take it out. Take them out once they've shed, and then I'll put them into. Well, this one doesn't have a vent in it, but I'll put them into this vent or into this bin, 6-quart bin, and I'll with a vent right here. Paper towel, my little egg flat thing, some food and the plant, and then I grow them up from there. I feed them diet, and once they're a little bit big enough, maybe even like 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old, then I'll start feeding them like small crickets, and then they'll start to eat them. So right now, majority of my hatchlings are upstairs because I have 2 hatchling racks up there, and then I start to move them as they grow a little bit bigger. And then these are, this is a hatch room too, but I didn't have space for those 2 racks, so I had to bring 2 racks upstairs. So they hatch up there. I hatch them through those hatchling racks or grow them out a little bit and then bring them down here. And then I clutch them up. So when they're small, I have them clutched up until 4 or 5 grams, and then I'll separate them. So I have a couple here that I need to separate. So I'm going to separate them here. So what I do is I prepare, I have a bunch of bins, like these back row bins I haven't used yet. So these ones haven't been drilled out yet and vented. I bought all the vents though, not all, but I bought a lot of vents. There's probably like 80 vents in here. This thing is expensive. So vents are pretty expensive. It's like $200 or something in there. So I'll drill holes as I need and as I go, so that I'm not just spending all day just drilling holes. I mean, I can do that, I guess, but I just go as I need, because I'm also selling stuff too. So as I'm selling stuff, I'm kind of cycling out the bins. I'm cycling and moving things. So right now the room isn't super full. It was much fuller the last few months, and then I started to move and sell things to try to like manage the space. So that's going to be my issue this year, is that I'm breeding more. I probably have over 100 females that I'm breeding, not immediately right away, right? I kind of trickle from December all the way out to June, July or so. I'll keep pairing things. And this year I'm actually going to try to keep pairing things year round. So that's why I'm not in a huge rush to just get everything paired up like the first quarter of the year, right? I'm just like, okay, we're already in March. I haven't paired up like half my stuff. I'm just going to keep pairing and slowly moving and pairing throughout the year, so that hopefully I can get a cycle of eggs going. And the only way to do that is to keep temps up. Keep temps up, and the light cycle, I keep the light cycles on. I do cool my females though, and my males. So some of my breeding females from last season, I haven't even paired them up yet. It's been 6 months now. They stopped laying in September, and I haven't repaired them because I'm giving them like a full like six plus months to kind of just recover and rest, and then I'll probably pair them again shortly, pretty soon. It's March, mid-March right now, so I'll probably get them paired up, but they've had a pretty good cycle of rest, and they're nice and fat right now because they're all well fed and everything. So a few of them started laying duds, so it means that they're ready to roll again. Some of them haven't laid duds yet, infertiles, so give them a little bit more time. And but yeah, all that to say is that what I'm trying to do gecko wise and with the system I have, and it's not even a massive system, it's overall, I have this hatch room I have upstairs where I do the podcast, and where I do my palm treats. It's not a big room, right? You've seen my rooms. If you've seen any of my palm treats, you've seen my room with the desk where I do the podcast, and then you see my other room with some of the container store bins, that breeding room as well. So it's not not a huge space, but within that space, I'm trying to maximize it and to be as efficient as possible. So I'm trying to figure out the cycle of like, okay, right now incubating, I have probably over 200 eggs. Um, so if let's say those are all hatched tomorrow, right? And let's say I don't clutch them up, then it would essentially fill like these four back racks immediately, right? So then I would only have like one, two, like two, maybe three racks left to give. So so I do have to kind of manage the sales with kind of the breeding and just whatever space I have, I just have to keep it tight, right? So this is why for me, some of you guys have seen me on the lives talk about selling my pair of lychees, selling my two pairs of chewies, selling my pair of gargs, selling my Sarahs, um, and that's the reason. The reason is not because I don't want them or like them. It's because I'm trying to figure out my crested gecko system and dial it in. So right now I don't have a ton of room and play for fun, solely fun projects that don't necessarily need to lay. Like the lychees and the chewies, I haven't had hit any. I've had fertiles on the lychees, but I haven't hatched anything yet. Right, the gargs I've hatched one garg, but the chewies I haven't yet, and so um, I don't have. Basically, I'm not a specialist for the other new cal geckos when it comes to kind of their care and kind of their lay cycle. I haven't figured it out yet. So because of this season that's ramping up, I've decided, okay, let me just let them go for now, and give that project over to somebody else, and move those, and then use that space, that little space I have, right, of those few enclosures for more crested geckos, trying to just maximize my space. So the crested geckos, I feel like I have pretty dialed in terms of their feeding, their care, their breeding cycles. So I'm very comfortable with crested geckos. But the other new cal geckos, I'm not a specialist on, and so this is why I'm just trying to focus on my strength right now until I'm pretty established. So it's one of those things where you just never fully feel established. I've had a few seasons under my belt, but it's just one of those things where I'm still trying to figure different things out, which kind of makes it fun for me, I guess. Excuse me. Okay. So anyway, sorry, I just go on all these tangents and kind of all these rabbit trails of talking, discussing. But I'm gonna split up some of these pairings. I'll show you some of the animals. For for business, I very much am a hobbyist when it comes to this. I enjoy this very much. Like I enjoy doing the geckos, making the geckos, and I think it's because I've gotten quote unquote good at it. So when you're good at something and it's easy-ish for you, and people can see it and appreciate it, then you feel like you're in a good zone, right? So I feel like that's where I'm at right now, and I enjoy it as a hobby. But also, I've talked about this before. I like talking about the business aspect of it. I do. And it's not because we're just like some gecko mill trying to make a ton of money. That's not it. It's because I also love the aspect of building something, right? Whether it's the the community with the gecko pod, whether it's the systems in place with kind of breeding the geckos, whether it's building the business on a level that is that thinks beyond kind of just the fun part of it. I think business is fun, but you know what I mean. Just like just making cool things beyond that. Like how can I do well as a business? How can I sustain this hobby as a business so that it can provide for my family, right? So what I liked about Rapashi is that he's a businessman. He's also a a hobbyist, and he loves reptiles, and he's a keeper, and he's done all this stuff, and then but he talks about how to sustain the hobby and how to like dive into other various species and fun projects, and the only way to do that is to sustain it financially is by finding things that you can market, things that you can sell and move as well, right? Not the only way, but you know what I mean. Like on a grand scale of things, in order for us to fund some of the fun projects that we like, whether it's conserving some of these more rare animals and reptiles, and so that we can, have the funds to maintain those projects, you need to find something that's sustainable, right? I mean, unless you have a second job, that's fine. Unless you have like a spouse that works, unless you come from money, unless you don't have to worry about money at all. Majority of us people, we have to work in order to fund our hobbies. If you don't work and you don't need to fund your hobbies, then you are rich, or you are privileged in a way that majority of us are not. So, so this goes back to talking about business. Is that I love the idea of business. I love trying to learn the skill sets and kind of learn the traits as a business person to grow it further. And again, I'm not very well versed with business in general. Like, I'm not the smartest guy. I didn't go to school for business. I don't have a ton of business friends. I do, but there's no like, I don't know a ton of entrepreneurs that are hardcore entrepreneurs, like startups, and I know a handful, but in general, like I don't have a lot of those influences. So I'm just learning everything from scratch. I read books, I'll watch listen to podcasts, I'll watch YouTube videos. I watch a lot of business type of things and Audible a ton of things while I'm doing work. I'll read books. I'll try to glean as much wisdom as possible for business sake. And I think I'm trying to level up and develop my own sense of business skills and business acumen, and so I'm hungry to learn when it comes to business. So when it comes to the gecko hobby, like trying to craft those two things together, I think it's very exciting for me. So building a brand, building your social media accounts, finding ways to funnel your accounts towards sales. I think all of those things are important for me. So I think I forgot who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were kind of talking about business, and I was talking about how for the gecko hobby itself, it's actually, to me, quite hard to do business. It's easy to do a side hustle, easy to make a few $1,000 here and there, a quarter or whatever. It's easy to do shows and make a few $100. What's difficult is doing this full time. It's actually very difficult to do this full time. And the reason is because the scalability of geckos, it's very difficult. Phil and Lexi, I talk about them often in terms of kind of how they've scaled up their business. Phil and Lexi have done a good job with scaling their plant business. And, I'm always trying to learn from how they do things, and how they grew from out of their house, they grew in their house and then out of their house into like this big warehouse. And now they have like multiple full-time employees. They're still, and Phil and Lexi are still on the live cams, with their sales. And I love how, they're still so involved on the front end, but they're also building out the back end of business. And I see that, and I see how they're able to scale the plants, whether, they can propagate and plant a ton of plants in these grow tents, or even if they are importing stuff in, like they're just able to scale and sell at a clip that you know, a majority of people can't yet. And well, they can get there. It's just hard, right? But and then so I look at the geckos, and I was talking to AJ about this. Like he and we always talk about this stuff too when it comes to like scaling up and figuring out how can we continue to grow as a business and grow in the hobby. And it's difficult. It's very hard to scale geckos, to be honest. It's not easy at all because it takes so much time to breed them. It takes a huge investment to buy the breeders and then go through that cycle of pairing, of seeing all these little baby hatchlings that you have and then growing those out and then making more and then multiplying. So like you're already 5 years in before you can, create an army enough to sell at a level that can provide a decent income. So depending on where you live. I live in California, which is insane. I'm pretty sure you can't be a full-time gecko breeder here and raise a family of 6. So, but thankfully my wife works and she has been very supportive and also very clear breadwinner for her family. So she's been amazing. And been so supportive. And so, yeah, she's just a killer when it comes to just everything that she does. And there's like no lazy bone in her body at all. She's either always working, moving around, doing something, or else she's sleeping. She has 2 modes. I always joke with her that she's the equivalent of 5 men, five people when it comes to energy level and production. So she is like a machine. She can just like work and outproduce anybody. So she's she's an engineer. She works in the South Bay, Silicon Valley, and she does really great work. So what are these animals here? These are kind of cool. Let me show you guys. Hold on. Uh-oh. Don't jump away. I'll make sure that one doesn't run away so I can bring this to the camera over here. This is not a frap, just a lily. It's like a tangy lily. This one comes from Mom was a tang lily white from overseas, from Europe. So this one's cool. We'll see how this one develops. See if it gets some of that tang. But going back to talking about business and scalability, it's just very hard to scale a gecko business. This is why I think so many people, they do secondary products. They sell accessories. I've thought about all those things as well. People sell food. Honestly, the food, like, you make nothing on those things. The margin on the food is so bad, and it's not the food person's fault per se. They need to run a business as well, but I do think it's insanely expensive to buy those bags of food. We're like, I guess I wouldn't say insanely expensive. I mean, it costs more to feed my dog, because I feed my dog raw. So I just went to Costco today and bought a big pork shoulder butt, a big hunk of meat for, it was like $55 or something. And then we have to cut that up and grind it up and feed. And so that goes through pretty quick. And that's only one dog. So I guess it's not like terrible. It's not terrible per gecko, but just the bags of food, it just feels so really pricey, 850, hold on. I'm just writing the tags here. This was hatched on 8/15. No, sorry, it was laid 8/15 and then hatched on 11/10, so almost 3 months. Okay. So yeah, I break these up and then, did I lose a? Oh my gosh, did it drop? Is it gecko? Oh, here it is. Crazy, I thought I lost it here for a second. Okay, so I split them up, and then they're probably like 4 grams only. They're pretty small still. But I try to break them up sooner rather than later, so you don't get tail nips, drop tails, etc., things like that. So if I have space for them, I'll try to split them up. Okay. Anyway, yeah, geckos, you know, for me, like I know because at the speed I've gone and I'm going with the geckos business is that I've been trying to go pretty hard for the last over 3 years now, you know, and you know, I'm still trying to expedite things, and I realize I just can't. There are so many things you just can't expedite unless you have unlimited money. Most of us don't have that. I already feel like I've spent way more than the majority of people, and you know, I've seen some breeders like dive in deep and they're buying 5K animals plus like multiples at the beginning, and they're basically somewhat brute forcing themselves into the scene by buying all these expensive animals. And I'm not saying that's the wrong thing to do. I'm just saying most people can't do that. I'm probably in the middle somewhere where I did spend quite a bit of money initially to buy a bunch of, you know, at that time, nice animals. And, you know, it's done okay. I feel like it's done okay, but I invested quite a bit of money into kind of this whole hobby. So what you guys see from me, you know, some people say like, oh man, you're hungry, you know, you're going after it. And I am, but I also realized that what I did to get here was somewhat naive. I don't really regret how I did it. It's just because that's my personality. If I'm all in on something, I'm just gonna go all in, and I'll try not to overanalyze because I know that I have to readjust anyway. So I'll go all in, and I'll just adjust along the way, and I'll hit all the hurdles. I know that's not the most efficient way to do things, but I'm a big feeler, and so if I feel passionate about something, I try to, yes, stay organized, yes, stay rational and logical about the whole situation, but at the end of the day, the passion really drives me forward, and then I kind of figure things out as I go. My wife would cringe at that, by the way. She, as an engineer, she needs to evaluate, look at how the business is going to run, write out a business plan, see all the you know, the timeline of how things are going to go, what are some of the you know, the checkpoints that we need to hit, and then, you know, she'll methodically go through all of that. That's not a wrong way to do it, but how I do it, because it's my personality, is I'm so much passion, and the feelings is what drives a lot of what I do. So I'll do it because I don't want to lose that inspiration, and then which sucks because that means I'm fueled off of just my feelings, which is a terrible thing to do. But pros and cons of that is that it can drive me to a place where my wife wouldn't go. Like, she would never do business because it doesn't make sense for her. She has a ton of skills in terms of cooking, in terms of all these. She's very handy. She does a lot of things, and I feel like, man, you could turn that into a business so easy if you wanted to. But she doesn't want to because she analyzes the time it's going to take to get there. She analyzes the investment of resources and financially, and time and energy and sacrifice on family time and how to get there. And she says, no, not worth it. For me, it's not that I want to sacrifice all those things like haphazardly, but for me, if I want something, I'm going to be like, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to drive through. I'm going to adjust everything else, and I'm going to try to figure out as I go. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but how I got here is because of that. It's because, you know, obviously with the help of my wife, I couldn't have done this if she was not working. I couldn't have done this if we didn't have savings already. So before I left my last job that I worked at over a decade, I worked in church ministry. I saved money and I invested money into hair. So I invested into hair. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go all in. I think I'm gonna try out full time. And obviously, you can't say full time really because the full-time income's not there. Like it's just not there until now. Maybe now I'm moving things in a way now that it can sustain a little bit. Obviously, like I wouldn't be able to send my kids to college with just my sole income. This is why my wife is clutch in this scenario here. Is that I couldn't have done business this way if one, for me personally, I wasn't passionate about it and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy building the community aspect. If I didn't like that stuff, then I wouldn't even do any of this stuff. But I have to like it. I have to be passionate about it. It drives past a lot of the hurdles and a lot of the sacrifices financially. Um, it was a huge sacrifice for us to do this. So that's where I'm at, and yeah, I think the passion brought me here, but because of my wife, who is kind of the backbone of our family, she's everything of our family. She just really helped support financially in terms of taking care of everything else family-wise, while I played dumb. I played, played business and did whatever dumb things I wanted to do. But I was like, I'm gonna do this, right? So I told her like, I'm gonna make this work. Like you just have to give me like 3-4 years. And now we're in year 4. All right, now we're in year 4. Now we're starting to move things positively, numbers wise, and she sees it, and I had to pull through on that. But if I overanalyzed and I'd be like, man, this is 4 years wasted of time I could have been working somewhere else, making what 80, 100K somewhere else. That's not only is it lost investment in terms of finances, it's lost time in terms of the years that I could have been earning money. So when we talk about business, like there are so many aspects of the business of how having it grow. And this is why I know that starting a business is like so difficult. So anytime someone starts a business and is actually moving towards, even if it's part-time, a part-time business, side business that is trending towards full-time, like I really feel a sort of like bond with people that do that, because it is a huge sacrifice to try to build something out, try to build a business out. I'm not even talking about geckos. It could be like, right now one of my kids like doing crochet stuff and crafts and slime, and then there's like, and then like I follow all these slime people on Instagram, and man, these people are starting like slime businesses from scratch. Woobles, you guys know Woobles, the crochet thing. That thing started during the pandemic, during COVID, and now it's just like it is blowing up, right? It's like in all these various toy stores, and they have a ton of orders coming in, and whether or not it's sustainable, that's something different. But it just inspires me that people would make that jump and sacrifice to work on a full-time business. It's definitely not for everybody. So when I took a poll about, is this just a hobby? This was maybe like a year or two ago, maybe 2 years ago. Is this just a hobby for you guys? Are you guys working towards full-time business? Very minimal people are full-time business. Majority of people, 90 plus percent of people are just here to enjoy it as a hobby and do it as a side hustle. Earn a little bit of money here and there, do some trades, which is totally good, totally fine. And so yeah, I know that with the full-time business thing, it's a different game, it's a different mentality. So what I'm trying to do now is that I'm trying not to lose myself in kind of the business machine, right? Because once a company and a business has kind of that feel where it's like, okay, they're big enough where they don't even know their customers, they don't, it doesn't feel very personable. It just feels like a machine and a commodity, something that you just want to buy in exchange for a service. Like there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. It's just that for me personally, I'm not there, and I don't know if I want to get there. I still want to be at the forefront of my business, so that people can see me, so we can still have these chats on vlogs where I can still be on, this is why I like Palm Tree too, the live sales, is that you put yourself out there, you're engaging in the chats, and I see you guys' names, and you guys buy stuff from me, and there's that personal connection, and that to me is the heart of business. You can ask these big corporations, like, that's not the heart of their business, right? It's just they're just trying to build freaking machines. um, and I'm trying to build a machine, but in a way that still maintains its heart, if that makes sense. um, so I guess once you hire out enough people where the owner isn't even around, you don't even know who the owner is, I think that's when it's a machine. um, Now you can have different hybrids, like REI. I really liked REI, Recreational Equipment Incorporation, like a couple decades ago, because it was still very, very like low key, very local business, yet hyped enough to be a legitimate business, and poised to become something big. But you can kind of do that where you can still have pictures of the owners and stuff on there, and it's still like, I don't know, a family owned business. And but yeah, I mean, majority of stuff we see, it just becomes this machine. And maybe we can wind it back, run it back 5 years later. Maybe I'll be a machine one day. I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe I'm gonna eat my own words. But right now, at least my current mindset is that I don't want to be a machine. I want to still be very involved in kind of everything that I'm doing. So there are different business arms that I'm working on. Maybe some stuff with AJ. I have some solo stuff that I'm working on, that I'm trying to work through and figure out, related to kind of the reptile industry, but also something that can be separate as well. So I'm trying to figure out what business looks like in the long run, in the grand scheme of things. For the reptiles, I've come to a place now where I'm like, okay, I'm making enough stuff and selling enough stuff for it to be a viable, full-time, not a high-paying job, salary, but it can be a full-time position and job that I'm working on right now. So it is a good feeling to be able to know that I'm able to get here, right? So like I told my wife, I said, just give me 3 or 4 years. I know I'm taking all of their savings and monies to kind of invest into these things, but just give me 3. I think I said earlier 2 years to her, and and I kept extending. Give me 3 years. Give me 4 years. Give me 4 years. And so now we're here 4 years later, and it's looking positive with kind of the various things that I'm working on and doing, and just being consistent with Palm Street for myself has been helpful as well. So my goal when I go on Palm Street is to make, I know people don't talk about numbers, but I'll just share with you, because you guys see it anyway on the Palms. My goal is to make $1,000 each show, right? $1,000 a week, and that doesn't even that's total, right? That doesn't even account for all the shipping, all the bugs I have to feed, all the overhead that goes in on this, right? Just let me get $1,000 a week. If I make a little bit extra, I could sell a few extra things, cool. But I don't want to just one and done it. I want to kind of slow trickle and try to keep it consistent as a business. So this is why you see me go on every week. It's because I'm trying to stay consistent. I'm trying to stay out there. I'm trying to stay engaged with the community, because I learn from you guys as well. And so even if I have 2 animals, like I think 3 weeks ago, I'm like, oh man, I gotta slow down on animals before I run out, right? So 3 weeks ago, I literally just had 3 animals for sale. The rest of the time I was just talking and doing Q&A and just engaging. And so thank you guys for engaging all the time on my shows. Like I can't tell you how much that means to me, that you guys show up to my Palm Streets, and you guys are in the chats, and you guys are chatting with each other. You guys are engaging with me as I kind of talk and do Q&A. It's so helpful for me. It really makes it fun for me, because I'm not going to show up to a dead crowd. Well, maybe I will anyway, because that's kind of my mentality. Just show up and be consistent. But it's nice to kind of show up and to engage. But yeah, I don't always have a ton of stuff. Sometimes I have 3 animals, like a couple weeks ago, and I've only sold 2. And I mean, they weren't bad animals. I made maybe like $600 off of those two animals. And then I sold food as well. And the food is what kind of helped me, right? I hit $1,000 because I was selling, food as well, Repashy or Vital. I can't sell Pangea because I'm not a wholesaler. I tried, but they said I wasn't eligible. So this is why I don't sell Pangea. It's not because I don't like Pangea. It's because I can't sell Pangea. Pangea's rules, not mine. So if I had Pangea, I would sell them as well, but I don't have them because I can't. So I have the breeder account and I can just buy it for myself and that's it. So so that's where I'm at with that. But I sell the food, which helps some of the sales, but the margins are so bad. Like it's, yeah, the food I'm making like $3 per sale, $4 per sale, and let's say I make $10 per sale. Let's say a big bag. Let's say a big bag I make $10, right? There's shipping. Shipping I try to push to you guys, the users, and I do it just enough so I pay a little bit of shipping, right? So maybe I pay like $1.50 extra, but I really eat cost. Can I charge more for that? Yes, but I also don't want to. I want to make it easy for the buyers as well. So I will take losses. And again, if you're an actual business person and you're cringing at the things I'm doing, I'm sorry. This is just the way that I've been operating. It's because I really want to provide value for the customer, like genuinely, even if it's at cost to me. And I know that's not the best way to grow a business to the size that, is ideal, but I don't know if I prefer to take this long, but I'd rather build into kind of what I'm doing, that I want to give my customers more value than they are giving me, if that makes sense, right? This is why the podcast exists. The podcast for 2.5 years, no sponsors. We just want to give information to people, to teach people. This is why I do the vlogs. I'm 47 minutes in now, taking time out of the busy day. I'm just talking, right? I put one animal away. So, and the reason why I do this, I'm very intentional with my time. Like I don't have very much time. I have 4 kids. We're always running back and forth with all their sports and extracurriculars. I have a ton of stuff going on. I have very little time. But the reason why I sit down and do this, the reason why that I do my lives, the reason why I do the podcast, the reason why I answer all of your DMs, it's because it's important to me that you guys understand that the business is not based on how much I can extract from you. It's how much value I can give to you guys. I really want to build a business that actually gives customers value, because we have seen so many businesses that just try to extract as much value out of its customers as possible, right? What's the ROI? What's the return on investment of gaining these customers so that I can extract as much money? Like fundamentally, business is built in a way that is meant to extract things from people. And this is the world we live in, right? And you can't hate on it because we've built billion-dollar corporations doing this, because there's a formula to doing business. However, with that, it loses some of its heart. And with that, I think that we're just so used to it that we don't realize it could be done a different way, right? Everything, all these rules that we have in life, they're completely arbitrary. Like we're making random rules up here and there on how the world should work. Obviously, like there's good rules, like don't kill each other, don't steal. Those are morality things. But in general, like how the business world works, how government works, completely arbitrary. We made these things up, right? When you realize that we make up the rules, you can change the rules. So when it comes to business here, people might scoff at how slow it is to build business the way that I'm doing it. But for me, I want the heart of my business to be that I'm giving value, that people are drawn to that people can know that it can be done a different way. So when you build your business, when you see how much value this business has given to you in a genuine way, then hopefully that further makes you, one day you'll start a business and we'll do the same thing, right? So I see this as kind of like, how do we change each other? How do we transform each other to be better people? How do we help each other to be a better civilization and humanity? It's through sacrifice. right? Oh my gosh, the dog is freaking always barking. It's through sacrifice. It's through personal sacrifice, not just grabbing and extracting and taking. It's sacrificing to say, I'll take a little bit because I need to survive. I need to build. I need to sustain. I need to provide for my family. And I want to get to a place where I'm as big enough where I can help other people. Yes, that's a good way to do it. But also, I want to do that in a way that still doesn't take the shortcut for me. Like, I'll call it a shortcut. The way is that I want to bake it into everything that I'm doing, that I'm providing value for you guys. So that's that. 50 minutes in, I want to talk about business a little bit, and I guess that wasn't as tactical as much as it was like preachy. So I apologize for that. I preached in my my past jobs. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Is that with business, it's a slow grind. You see a lot of people do quick flips. They're trying to make a quick buck. For me personally, again, this is my own opinion and thoughts, is that I'm not here for the quick buck. Like, I want to do things in a way that provides you, the customer, maximum value, provides the community with maximum value, as little cost as possible, even at no cost, right? Podcast, no cost. But it's taking a tremendous amount of time for me to kind of do those things and put those things out and think through those things. And for me, it's not, I say that not as a pity. I say that in that I like it. I really want that to be kind of the aura, the heart of everything that I want to do personally. And I want my kids to know that this is what I do too, right? We're just trying to teach the next generation and teach each other to be better people. And with the gecko hobby, it can be filled with drama. We can get caught up in it. I can get caught up in it. We can get nasty at times, and those things are all just, we get caught up in our feels sometimes, in our emotions. But at the end of the day, like, business is business, the hobby is the hobby. How can we just, bottom line is, how can we be better people? How can we be better hobbyists? How can we be better business people? How can I be a better husband and a dad? And how can I show that to people in subtle ways? How can my kids see this and also hopefully mimic the things that I'm doing, not just in terms of like being a gecko breeder or selling geckos, but more so in the sense of like, oh, is he a good person? Like, can I be proud of my dad? Is he a man of integrity? And I'm not always that. There's sometimes I'm not. And I admit I have like a ton of faults, but I want to be a certain way. And so what I'm fighting for business and the way that I'm doing things is that I want to be a better person, and I want to show that it's possible that other people can do this as well. So a little preachy, sorry about that. But yeah, that's kind of the business things that I do. Man, there's so much more business stuff I actually wanted to talk about, but I'll just save it for a different vlog, because we're almost an hour in already. So I hope that's been helpful to you guys. Subscribe, that's an ask, right? Subscribe and like if this has been helpful. If not, don't worry about it. Just watch, and if it's useless and whatever to you, totally okay. As long as everyone is just trying to find ways to kind of grow and better themselves and kind of elevate their own path in life. So thank you guys for everything you guys are doing. I do Monday live palm streets. You can follow me on that app. And yeah, be on the lookout. There's more stuff coming from me business-wise. Pretty excited about this year. This year should be pretty good when it comes to things that are up ahead. So you'll find out and see those things in the coming months. So really appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. Love y'all. Take care.